People think betrayal is loud, slamming doors, shattered plates, a voice cracking with rage. But when my wife betrayed me, it was quiet, almost surgical. No screams, no blood. Just a wine glass left half full on the table, lipstick smudged, still warm. My name is Ben. I'm a software engineer, 37 years old. I've always been the kind of guy who pays his taxes early, remembers anniversaries, and takes the garbage out before it smells. You could say I lived a simple life. Reliable. Predictable. I used to think that made me a good husband. I know now how wrong I was. Alice, my wife, was everything I wasn't. She walked into rooms like she owned the floor beneath her feet. Where I measured twice and cut once, she threw paint at walls just to see what stuck. She was passionate, unpredictable, magnetic. I used to believe that we balanced each other. Now I wonder if I was just something stable she could push against while she reached for whatever she really wanted. It started, I think, on a Sunday. We had this tradition, brunch at home. French press coffee, scrambled eggs with goat cheese, a jazz playlist humming softly in the background. That day, everything was as usual. Except it wasn't. She was dressed too well for a lazy Sunday, makeup on, her black dress hugging a little tighter than necessary. When I asked where she was going, she smiled a little too easily. Oh, just meeting Angelica. Girl stuff. You know. Angelica. Her best friend. Or at least, that's what I'd been led to believe. She was around a lot too much, if I'm honest. There was always a flicker of something behind her eyes when she looked at me, like she was sizing me up. I never liked her. But Alice insisted she needed a friend who didn't run on spreadsheets and logic. That was her jab at me. I laughed it off at the time. That Sunday, I watched from the window as Alice got into an Uber. Not her usual routine. Normally, Angelica picked her up. I noticed the driver didn't turn in the direction of Angelica's place. My gut twisted, but I told myself not to be paranoid. I trusted her. Or maybe I just needed to. Later that night, she came home with a smile on her face and the scent of cologne that wasn't mine clinging to her. It wasn't even subtle. But I said nothing. Because here's the thing. Betrayal doesn't show up all at once. It leaks in, like water through a cracked foundation. You see it coming, feel the dampness rising, and yet you hope it'll stop on its own. You pretend, because pretending is easier than admitting your whole house might collapse. That week, I started noticing the signs. Her late night stretched later. Her phone, once casually tossed on the couch, was now always tucked in her pocket or flipped face down. She was smiling more, laughing at texts I wasn't allowed to see. And every time I asked, she had an answer ready too ready. Answers polished like stones she'd turned in her hand 100 times. I told myself I was imagining things. I buried myself in work. But the distance between us was growing wider, and the silence in our bedroom grew heavier. I started sleeping with my back to her, even though I still reached for her in my dreams. It all could have gone on indefinitely, me pretending, her lying, if it weren't for the charger. Her phone died one night while we were watching a movie. She asked if I could grab her charger from her bag. And that's when everything changed. I reached into her bag and found not just the charger, but something else. A folded napkin from a place I'd never heard of. Lipstick kisses on the back. A time. A date. And the name Michael. Who the hell was Michael? My hands started to shake. I took the napkin, sat down, and stared at it like it might explode. The wine glass she had left from dinner, half full, lipstick smudged, was still sitting there on the table. That glass never broke. But I did. I didn't ask her about the napkin that night. I couldn't. I didn't trust myself not to explode, and I knew if I confronted her with nothing but a name and a lipstick print, she'd twist it into paranoia. Alice was good like that. Better than me at spinning words into silk and wrapping them around your throat without you realizing you were choking. Instead, I slid the napkin into my sock drawer, between old cufflinks and a watch I hadn't worn since our honeymoon. It didn't belong there, but it felt like the right place among forgotten things. The next day, I started watching her. I'd never done anything like it before. I wasn't a jealous man. At least, I hadn't thought I was. But once you suspect the person you sleep beside is living a secret life, every movement becomes suspicious. Every smile is suspect. Every "I love you" feels rehearsed. That week, Alice had plans 3 nights in a row. All of them involved Angelica. Supposedly. But Angelica didn't post anything on Instagram those nights. That's how I started putting things together. Angelica was practically allergic to silence online. She documented everything. Cocktails, shoes, girls' nights. But those nights? Nothing. Just digital crickets. I didn't say anything. I just nodded when Alice told me she was going to Angelica's again, kissed her cheek, and smiled like I believed her. I even walked her to the door like a good husband. Then I followed her. My heart beat so hard I thought it might shake loose from my ribs as I trailed the Uber in my car. I turned off my headlights 3 blocks before I saw her get out, not at Angelica's brownstone, but in front of a boutique hotel downtown. I parked across the street and watched as she walked into the lobby, her coat slipping off her shoulders in a way that felt deliberate. And then he appeared. Tall, athletic build, expensive coat, and that smug sort of confidence you only see in men who get what they want. He kissed her, not on the cheek, not like a friend. His hand slid down her back as he pulled her in, and she didn't flinch, didn't even look around to see if anyone might be watching. She knew no one would be. She knew I wouldn't be. But I was. I didn't go inside. I sat there for an hour, staring at the doors like they might spit her back out. They didn't. The hotel lights flickered. Couples came and went. I started to feel like a ghost in my own life, watching from the outside as someone else lived what used to be mine. The next morning, she came home like nothing happened. Said traffic was terrible. Said Angelica was having a crisis. She even brought me coffee, like a souvenir from the lie she'd been living. I drank it. I don't know why. Habit, maybe. That weekend, I called Angelica. We'd never really talked one-on-one. She always kept a distance from me, polite, dismissive. But this time, her voice was syrupy sweet. Oh, Ben. Everything okay? Yeah, I lied. Just wondering if Alice left her sweater at your place the other night. Pause. Not even half a second, but I heard it. The stumble. Oh, yeah? Yeah, she did. I'll give it to her next time I see her. I smiled into the phone. Thanks. You two always have such a good time. Another pause. Yeah, always. After I hung up, I sat on the edge of our bed, looking at the photo on the dresser. Our wedding day. Her veil was blowing sideways from the wind. I remember she laughed so hard the photographer had to stop shooting. I remember thinking I'd never seen anyone so happy. Now I wondered if she had been laughing at me all along. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't breathe a word of this to anyone. My parents adored her. My friends would tell me to talk it out, to be mature. But this wasn't a fight about chores or finances. This was a second life unfolding just beneath my nose. And I was starting to think Angelica knew more than she let on. A lot more. One night, while Alice was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. I wasn't going to check it, but my hand moved before my brain could stop it. It was a message from Angelica. He's getting suspicious. Be careful. I stared at the message on Alice's phone until the screen faded to black. He's getting suspicious. Be careful. The words burned into my brain like a brand. I set the phone down exactly how I'd found it. My fingers felt numb. The sound of the shower running in the background was suddenly deafening. All I could hear was the water crashing against tile like it was trying to drown something. I should have felt rage, but I didn't. Not yet. All I felt was distance, like I was standing across a canyon from my own life, watching it burn. When she stepped out, wrapped in a towel and humming, I didn't say a word. She kissed me on the cheek. I turned my face just enough for her lips to miss. I needed answers, and I wasn't getting them from her. Not yet. So I went to the only other person who might crack, Angelica. The next afternoon, I showed up unannounced at her apartment. She looked surprised, maybe even a little nervous. She had a wine glass in her hand, barefoot, wearing one of those oversized sweaters that's supposed to look effortless but costs more than my car payment. Ben, she said, drawing out the syllable like it amused her. What a surprise. Can I come in? She hesitated, just for a breath. But then she stepped aside. Inside, everything was white and glass and soft lighting, like a showroom nobody actually lived in. She poured herself more wine. Didn't offer me any. Didn't need to. This wasn't a social call, and we both knew it. So, she said, curling up on the edge of her couch. What's going on? I didn't play around. You know. She tilted her head. I know what. Alice. The hotel. Michael. The second I said his name, her wine glass paused just before her lips. A flicker in her eyes. Nothing more, but it was enough. I don't know what you think you saw, she said finally carefully. But Alice loves you. She really does. Loving someone and sleeping with someone else aren't mutually exclusive, apparently. Angelica sighed and looked away. Ben, maybe you should talk to her. I'm talking to you. A long silence passed. Then, finally, she set her glass down. You weren't supposed to find out like this. So you admit it? She didn't answer that directly. Instead, she leaned forward. eyes gleaming just enough to make my stomach twist. "You're not blameless, you know?" I blinked. "Excuse me." "She's been lonely, Ben. For a long time. You don't see her anymore. You go to work, come home, sit on the couch. You've become beige." The words hit harder than I expected. Not because I believed her, but because maybe, deep down, Alice did. Angelica stood up, walked toward me. Too close. She didn't plan for this to happen. But Michael sees her. He listens. Makes her feel wanted. I stepped back. "You helped cover it up." She shrugged. "I covered for my friend. That's what friends do." She lied to me. She lied to herself first. There it was. The line. The moral gymnastics. The justification for betrayal dressed up in empathy. I left without another word. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed beside a woman who was a stranger, listening to her breathe, wondering if I'd ever known her at all. The next morning, I found her phone in her purse while she was brushing her teeth. This time, I didn't just glance. I opened the thread with Michael, and what I saw wasn't just an affair. It was a relationship. Intimate, casual, ongoing. Pictures, inside jokes, plans, and then one message that made my heart stop. "When are you finally going to leave him? I think I love you." 5 words. That's all it took to rip the floor out from under me. She hadn't said it to me in weeks. Months, maybe. I couldn't even remember the last time she looked me in the eye and said it like she meant it. But there it was, glowing on her screen in that little blue bubble. Not for me. For him. Michael. It wasn't a fling. This was something deeper, scarier. Alice wasn't just sleeping with someone else. She was dreaming with him. Laughing with him. Sharing the parts of herself that used to be mine. I should have felt rage. I should have broken something. But all I felt was hollow. I scrolled through the messages, one after another. Their conversations weren't just about sex. They talked about books, childhood memories, inside jokes I didn't understand. And every few days, she'd send him a photo, her smile brighter than anything I'd seen in our home for a long time. They called each other M and A. Cute, right? Like lovers in a movie script. And in one of the messages, she even asked if he liked the wine she left at their place. I stared at that word for a long time. There. The betrayal wasn't just physical. She had carved out a second life. Piece by piece. That day, I couldn't bring myself to speak to her. She went about her morning, humming as she made toast, tapping out a quick text, probably to him. When she kissed me goodbye, I barely moved. She didn't seem to notice. I spent the day in a daze. Walked through meetings like a man on autopilot. Smiled when I needed to. Answered emails without reading them. Every few minutes, her voice would echo in my mind. All the lies. All the I love yous said while hiding messages in her purse. I kept hearing that message Angelica sent again. Be careful. They weren't just having an affair. They were planning something. And I was the obstacle. That night, I opened our wedding album for the first time in years. I don't know why. Maybe I was searching for the version of us that existed before the cracks. Before her phone stayed face down. Before Angelica whispered in her ear. Before Michael. There we were, smiling, young, and stupidly sure we'd never be one of those couples. The ones who unravel in silence. The ones who stop asking questions. I don't know when it started. Maybe it was the year she lost her job and I picked up more hours. Maybe it was when we stopped taking weekend trips. When real life swallowed the romance whole. Or maybe it started when Angelica moved back into town, reappearing in Alice's life like an old ghost with lipstick and secrets. I'd like to believe it could have been fixed. Once. But not anymore. The next morning, I watched her leave again. Same black coat. Same lipstick. Same story. This time, I followed. She met him at a cafe near the edge of town, small, cozy, hidden. She touched his arm when she laughed. He kissed her hand like they were in some old novel. They sat there for almost an hour. And when they finally stood to leave, I snapped a photo from my car. Them, walking hand in hand, faces soft, like nothing else existed. And in that moment, I made a decision. No more watching. No more silence. I was done bleeding from 1,000 tiny cuts. It was time to cut back. The plan was to wait. Gather more proof. Be smart. But plans crumble when your heart's on fire. I hadn't intended to confront her that night. I wanted to be calm, calculated, present her with the evidence, ask the questions, demand the truth. But when she walked through the door smelling like his cologne, humming like she hadn't just been with another man, something inside me snapped. She was taking off her earrings when I spoke. Did he kiss you goodbye? Her hands froze. Slowly, she turned. What? At the cafe. Did he kiss you before or after he held your hand? Silence. Then denial. What are you talking about? Michael, I said, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. I saw you. I followed you. The look on her face shifted from shock to something else. Fear, maybe, or guilt. Or worse, calculation. You followed me. That's your response. I laughed bitterly. You've been living a lie, and you're worried about me crossing a line? She didn't deny it. She just sat down slowly on the edge of the couch, like her legs had given out. How long? I asked. No answer. How long, Alice? She looked up, eyes glistening. 8 months. The words felt like a punch. 8 months, you've been lying to my face for 8 months. I didn't mean for it to happen. Don't say that. Don't insult both of us. She wiped her cheek. I was lonely, Ben. You stopped seeing me. I never stopped loving you. Her voice cracked. But you stopped trying. That hit harder than anything else. And maybe there was truth in it. But love isn't a performance. It's not a highlight reel. It's in the mundane, the groceries, the silence, the bills. I shook my head. You could have told me. We could have fixed it. She looked away. I didn't want to hurt you. You did anyway. The room went quiet. She didn't apologize. I didn't ask her to. We sat in the wreckage of our marriage. No shouting, no crying. Just two people, broken in different ways, realizing something sacred had been shattered. And it couldn't be undone. After that night, something settled between us. Thick, invisible, unspoken. Like smoke from a fire long extinguished, but still choking the room. She didn't leave. Not right away. And I didn't ask her to. We moved through the house like strangers. Quiet. Careful. Avoiding each other's eyes. The hardest part? She still made coffee in the morning. Still folded my shirts when she did laundry. Little routines, like muscle memory, continued even as the foundation cracked beneath us. It felt almost cruel, how ordinary things persisted while everything else fell apart. One night, I sat in the living room with a single question echoing in my head. Could I forgive her? It wasn't a simple yes or no. I loved her. God help me, I still did. But love isn't a bandage. It doesn't erase the image of her holding someone else's hand. It doesn't unring the bell. That same night, I walked past our bedroom and heard her crying. I paused, just long enough to wonder if I should go in. I didn't. Instead, I found myself texting someone I hadn't spoken to in a while. Mark, my oldest friend. We hadn't talked much lately. Life gets in the way, but he'd always been the one to give it to me straight. We met for coffee the next day. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt. Just sat there, listening, his jaw tight. When I finished, he asked, "So what now?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I keep picturing 2 doors. One where I try to fix it, and one where I walk away." "And what's behind them?" "Paint," I said. "Just different kinds." He nodded. "Then pick the one you can live with." That night, I sat in the guest room, staring at the ceiling. My wedding ring felt heavier than it ever had. Alice knocked once, then stepped inside. Her eyes were puffy, red. "I'll move out," she whispered. I looked at her, really looked. For the first time in weeks. "Why now?" "Because I can't keep pretending I didn't destroy you." I didn't stop her. The next morning, I watched her carry 2 suitcases to her car. She didn't look back. And just like that, it was over. Or so I thought. After she left, the house was quieter than I ever thought possible. Not peaceful, just empty. I'd wake up and still expect to hear the kettle whistle, the shuffle of her slippers in the hallway, the sound of her brushing her teeth with the bathroom door half closed. But there was nothing, just silence. And the ghost she left behind. Everything reminded me of her. Her coat still hung by the door for a week before I could bring myself to touch it. A coffee mug sat in the sink, her lipstick mark still faint on the rim. Her scent lingered on the pillows, stubborn as memory. I hated that it comforted me. I hated that I missed her. But grief doesn't follow rules. It doesn't care if the person who broke you is the same person you still love. It just takes up space, moves into your ribs and settles in. She texted, now and then. Nothing dramatic. Did you eat on a rainy day? Saw your favorite beer and thought of you." I didn't reply. I couldn't. Because if I opened that door, I didn't trust myself not to walk right back through it. Angelica didn't reach out. Maybe she knew better. Or maybe she was too busy helping Alice rebuild her next life. Either way, I was done with her. Mark kept checking in. Sometimes we'd grab a drink. Sometimes we'd sit in silence. It helped. A little. And then, one night, I found the envelope. It was tucked inside my sock drawer, where I'd hidden the napkin weeks ago. I almost missed it. My name, written in her handwriting. No stamp. Just folded, waiting. Inside was a single page. She didn't apologize in the traditional sense. No, I'm sorry, written a dozen ways. Just the truth. The way she saw it. She admitted to falling out of love, slowly, quietly, like water leaking from a cracked pipe. She didn't blame me. She didn't excuse herself. She just said, I didn't know how to be honest without breaking everything. And then, if there's anything left of us, I hope one day it finds peace. I sat with that letter for a long time. Not angry. Not even sad, really. Just tired. I folded it back into the envelope and put it away, not to forget, but to remember that love, when neglected, doesn't explode. It fades. And what it leaves behind is a version of yourself you no longer recognize. It had been almost 3 months. The house stayed quiet, but something in me had shifted. The wound wasn't healed, but it had stopped bleeding. I'd started cooking again, going to the gym, deleting photos instead of staring at them. Life moved, even when you didn't want it to. Then one Saturday morning, the past knocked, literally. I opened the front door, and there she was. Alice. She looked different. Lighter, but not happier. Like someone who'd been carrying a heavy suitcase and finally put it down, only to realize she didn't know where to go next. Hi, she said. I nodded, unsure if I should say hi back or just shut the door. I didn't come to cause anything, she said quickly. I just need to talk. One last time. I stepped aside, and she walked in like she'd never left. But everything was different now, her movements slower, more careful. She glanced around the living room like it held pieces of her she forgot to take with her. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, that invisible line still between us. I left Michael, she said. The words barely registered at first. He wanted a version of me that only existed when I was sneaking around, she added. Without the thrill, there was nothing left. I didn't speak. I couldn't tell if I was relieved or disappointed. I didn't come back to fix things, she continued. I know some things can't be unbroken. I needed to tell you in person that I know what I lost. A pause. Then she asked, almost in a whisper, Are you okay? It was a question I hadn't been asked by her in so long it startled me. I'm getting there, I said. She nodded, teary-eyed but composed. You were a good husband, Ben. I just didn't know how to be a good wife anymore. She stood up to leave. No dramatics, no plea to come back. Just quiet resignation. At the door, she turned. You'll be happy again. I hope it's with someone who sees everything in you I forgot to. And then she was gone. This time, she didn't leave behind perfume or coffee mugs. Just honesty. And maybe that was enough. There's a strange kind of quiet after closure. It's not peace, exactly. Not yet. But it's the first breath after being underwater for too long. After Alice left, for real this time, I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt, still, like the storm had passed, and now all I could do was look around at what was left. And there I was, alone, but not shattered. I started filling my days with small things. I bought new bedsheets, rearranged the living room, donated her books, not out of spite, but because I needed the space to reflect who I was becoming, not who I had been with her. I started running again, not for health, not for weight, just for clarity. Each step felt like a declaration. I am still here. Friends came back into the picture. Even people I hadn't realized I pushed away. Mark introduced me to a local book club, something I'd have laughed at a year ago. But I went. Not for the books, really. For the noise. The connection. And that's where I met Rachel. Not in a movie scene kind of way. No sparks, no slow motion. Just someone who smiled kindly, asked thoughtful questions, and didn't look at me like a man broken. She didn't ask about my past, and I didn't offer it. Not yet. We talked. We laughed. She didn't try to fix me, and I didn't try to impress her. It was slow, gentle, and in that stillness, I started to see the version of me without Alice. More honest, more aware, less afraid of falling apart. I still thought about her sometimes, Alice. Not with anger anymore, but with distance. Like an old scar. Something that hurt once, but no longer controlled me. She was a chapter. A deep one. But not the end. One night, as I walked home from the book club, I realized something quietly powerful. I wasn't waiting for her to come back anymore. I was walking forward. It came on a Tuesday afternoon, tucked between 2 emails and a work call I barely remembered. A letter, handwritten, postmarked from a small town 2 hours north. No return name, but I recognized her handwriting before I even opened it. Alice. The last thing I expected was another letter. Inside was just one page. This isn't about regret, it began. It's about finally letting go of the version of us I kept holding on to. She wrote that she had moved, new town, new job, no Michael. She wasn't looking for redemption or forgiveness, only the peace that comes from telling the truth without expecting something back. She said she sometimes walks past bookstores and thinks of me. That when it rains, she still brews tea the way I used to, 2 bags, no sugar. And then, this. You didn't fail me, Ben. We just stopped holding each other where it mattered. You were always enough. I just wasn't ready to stay. I sat with that letter for a long time. It didn't hurt the way it would have months ago. There were no sharp edges left in her words. Just softness. Honesty. Maybe even love, just not the kind that stays. I didn't write back. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to. That night, I stood outside on the porch, the same porch where we'd once slow danced barefoot after too much wine. The air was cool, sky streaked with soft orange. I closed my eyes and said goodbye. Not to the woman. To the weight. To the version of myself who had carried it for too long. Weeks passed. Rachel and I kept talking. No expectations, no rush. Just something new. Something honest. She never asked me what had happened, but one day I told her anyway. And she just listened, quietly, without judgment. That's when I knew I was going to be okay. Pain doesn't disappear all at once. It softens. It teaches. It leaves behind something stronger if you let it. Alice was a chapter I'll never erase. But I've started writing a new one. And this time, I'm not writing it for someone else. I'm writing it for me.